Welcome back to Doctor Who Ranked. Certainly been a while, but with the 14th Doctor come and gone, sorta, might as well make a new one in this series since it is definitely going to be a while until 15 is done. So, since it's been a while, I will remind everyone of the format, which is me ranking the episodes, then I rank the companions, then I talk about the Doctor and their era. I'm also going to be making the reviews a bit longer than normal because there's only 3 episodes, so might as well space things out. With that, let's get started. First things first, with the only okay story at number 3, The Star Beast. 'Twas fine. It was a nice and safe special. Nothing crazy, nothing insane, just a simple adventure, and I think that worked. I liked how 14 didn't deal with post-regen or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, I love it when it works, but I feel like after the 11th hour, the post-regen episodes featured doctors that were way too goofy. For Smith, it worked. Capaldi was ridiculous, but and then less said about Whittaker the better. Here we just had 14 doing his thing. It also felt disconnected from the past era, so you could almost skip 13's era and be relatively fine as long as you're aware of her existence. It was great seeing Donna again. Tate slips back into the role just fine, and it seems like she never left. Sean was good here as well, although I don't remember the actor's name. He didn't have much of a role prior, so we saw more of him here, and he did a good job. Yasmin Finney is very dull. She was very wooden and awkward, and I feel didn't match the energy that everyone else gave. Sylvia was also nice to see. A bit more leveled out and calmer in her old age, but still had those annoying moments her character is known for. The actual story was a simple one. Alien crashes to Earth and needs to be saved from evil villain story. With a bit of a twist, but since I was aware of the character of Beep the Meep prior to seeing the episode, it wasn't a surprise for me. But I think Margulies did the role quite well. I also like the production design. With everything looking cinematic now, it took a bit of time getting used to. I'm so used to Doctor Who being cheap and cheesy. Now it's just cheesy, and that is a compliment. Despite having a boost in budget, it did still hold on to those cheesier aspects. Now we get to the negatives. As I mentioned, Rose, played by Finney, wasn't good. She just could not act well. Ironic with one of Donna's final lines in the episode, and as I said, felt very wooden. The non-binary stuff was very cringy and still comes off as a how do you do fellow kids type thing. And then the ending with you're a dumb man who doesn't know anything because you're a man was also very, very cringy. Since this became usual with the chin balls era, I've learned to just live with it. But it still needs to be mentioned because it's just so dumb and didn't need to be there. While I didn't mind it was safe, it was a bit of a detractor, but only a tiny bit. And not only that, but essentially just readapting a previous story. It was essentially just a remake of the original magazine story, Doctor Who and the Star Beast, and I do kind of wish it was more of a spiritual adaptation than a straight one. Like it was looser with the deets and just took Beep the Meep and did its own thing. To be fair, it is nothing new with readapting stories, as Paul Cornell did it with Human Nature, adapting his own novel for that 2-parter in Series 3. However, it still felt kind of lazy, mainly because the book and the 2-parter for Human Nature are so different from one another. From what little I know of the book, that is. It really is night and day in terms of comparing the two with overall story, the Doctor's development, the companion involved, and the villains. And you still have the same writer. At least Cornell rewrote his own story. Here it's Russell T Davies just taking what came before with Pat Mills and John Wagner and just doing it for the small screen. It's still good and overall entertaining, but I feel like that it's a bit too safe is all. Like The Force Awakens levels of safe. But even then, it still works because they probably had to with, the state of the show right now. Start it off safe and then do more experimental stuff later on. Then the reason as to why Donna was okay with remembering everything felt very forced, and the ending was just so lazy. Cue the, well, that's just lazy writing joke here. Overall, though, despite my grievances, I had fun with it. Next is the very good story with number 2, The Giggle. This was a great story that got a little bit worse for me the more I thought about it. However, I will get to that soon. The positives first. I liked Neil Patrick Harris as the Toymaker. He went a bit too over the top at points, but I still think it worked with the character. Only bad thing I have to say is that the variations of accents can get annoying after a while. I get that it was the point because the Doctor mimicked his voice in the original story, which led to his defeat, so he kept changing it so that he can't mimic him again, which still doesn't make sense to me because he can just pick any accent and it would still be a mimic of his voice. I don't think changing it would help, but whatever. However, it was still annoying. I do hope he does return no matter who plays him because the Toymaker is such a great villain, as well as the idea of celestial beings just being innately fascinating to me. Gemma Redgrave returns as Kate Lethbridge-Stewart and she is great as always. Bonnie Langford returns as Mel Bush, and I wasn't dreading her appearance actually because I felt that New Who would have given her an actual character, unlike classic Who where she just screamed. Here, she was good. Nothing spectacular, but fine. I think the story was just a bit too safe, similar to the Star Beast. I feel like it could have gone more high concept because of how the Toymaker is as a character. But I would be lying if I said I didn't like the simplicity of it because it still kind of works with how this grandiose celestial being is defeated by a game of catch. And the commentary this time around, while obvious, I feel like was threaded into the narrative a little bit better than done before. Not an amazing episode by any means, but the second best out of the three because I liked the use of the Toymaker, the story was fun, the characters were all great, and it was an engaging special. However, the reason it doesn't get more points, the whole bi-regeneration thing, or bi-generation, it is just so dumb. It's there just to keep Tennant around because God fucking forbid the show exist without him. It existed for 26 years, a TV movie, and a season before him. It existed for 9 seasons after him. This beloved show doesn't revolve around this one guy who played him for 3 years out of its 60-year history. Plus, Davies was the one who pushed the BBC to continue the show without him when they considered canceling it. Now he's keeping him around because people can't move on? Come on now. Overall, it is my second favorite out of the 3, but the reason it isn't better is the whole regeneration nonsense and some of the other cons I said before. I also like Ncuti Gatwa here in his, 15 minutes cameo, I guess. It's hard to discern his version of the character from just 15 minutes, but he did a good job here. Then we get to the great story with number 1. Wild Blue Yonder. This definitely had the vibe of an old school Big Finish story, and that is definitely a compliment. An ongoing mystery, major horror vibes, a big empty spaceship, very intriguing, and plenty of creepy moments. Tate and Tennant do a great job as their doppelgangers, and it worked with how they showcased this sort of weird mystery race on the edge of the universe. Little bits of non-humanness that got better and better as time went on because of adapting the littler quirks of their original versions. It felt like it combined so many aspects of different stories, yet it still felt like this brave new world they were entering with this era. It had notes of a First Doctor story, a Second Doctor story, and a Fourth Doctor story. Arc in Space, anybody? All rolled into one. It's not perfect, as there were some rather dull moments here and there, but for the most part, it was actually fun, interesting, and exciting. I also weirdly appreciated the cheesy CGI. Usually I don't, but here it weirdly worked because of how the not things were conceptually. Plus, I love the weirder concepts like having an edge of the universe and something beyond the nothingness. You do have a bit of 13 lore, which is a bit annoying, but nothing bad or anything. I mean, it's just something one has to get used to because it ain't going away, and it shouldn't. As much as I don't like 13 and the whole timeless child crap, stay the course. Don't make the same mistakes Disney did with Star Wars. Ironically, now that they are co-producing it. Overall, though, it was definitely a great adventure that felt like Doctor Who after many, many years of not feeling like it. Although I don't get why Isaac Newton looked like that. Whatever. Next, we get to the companions. I will give an honorable mention to Mel Bush, Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, and Wilfred Mott, because they aren't considered companions here, despite the former two having substantial roles. Mel was actually good here because she, as I said, felt like a character, and with Langford playing the character so much on Big Finish, she got quite a bit of practice and managed to find what made her character work, and went with it. Kate is great as always, not sure about UNIT becoming the Avengers, but hey, gotta take advantage of the whole world-building thing that RTD plans to do, right? But Redgrave is spectacular in the role. It was so great seeing Wilf again one last time, and I'm glad that we won't have to see Wilf die on screen just because Cribbins is no longer with us. He gets to live on, and I'm very happy about that. Although not him shooting moles. I thought you never took a life there, Wilf. Anyway, rest in peace, Mr. Cribbins. You are dearly missed by this entire community. Now we get to the only companion that technically counts, Donna Noble. While I do hate the retconning with her character and her amnesia, with how she doesn't remember when she sees him, yet the Doctor has to say some sort of code to give her her memories back, when she just saw the Master in the end of time, and she nearly died because of that, because she started getting her memories back. I know, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. This series isn't exactly about straight continuity, but still, it seems like lazy writing just so we can have Donna have her memories and not have to worry about this. Despite this, Catherine Tate is still excellent. She still fits into the part like a glove, but with a few more miles on her. Not in a bad way, just that, life. It happens. So I liked how she was an aged Donna. She fit into that idea perfectly, and I loved it. One of the best New Who companions is still great. What a shock. Now we get to the Doctor and his era. So, David Tennant became one of my least favorite Doctors when he was 10, mainly because of how he treated his incarnation during the end of time. How somehow this life, meant so much more than his other 9 fucking bodies, or retroactively 10 with the War Doctor, and God knows how many more retroactively with the whole Timeless Child nonsense. I just did not care for that. I liked 14 and whatever he's supposed to be. Since the captions during the giggle had him as 10th Doctor, which is confusing as all hell. He kinda almost felt like 10 without all the baggage, but luckily it went further than that. He felt more caring and even more human than originally, like how he kisses Donna's hand and promises to get her home. The way he said it just felt more genuine. It also helped that in Wild Blue Yonder, a lot of the episode dealt with little quirks that we as people, human or non-human, have, which added into the whole thing. I think with what happened to him during 13's era, it kind of humbled him and made him realize what he needed to be going forward. And on top of that, I liked how he actually accepted his death, as opposed to saying, I don't want to go again, or something idiotic along those lines. There were a lot of different quirks to him that I really liked that made him different. I just wish he did actually regenerate, because it would have had everything come full circle. He got this face again, and he decided to go out with dignity. But we couldn't have that because we need to keep this dude for as long as possible, because one guy apparently makes this 60-year show go round. Somehow. But I do think that Tennant did a good job and did something different with this portrayal. In regards to his era, I do think that these 60th anniversary specials were better than the 50th. I still don't think it celebrates the show that much, but I liked it more. I mean, I will say though, at least the Star Beast was in reference to a weird, obscure magazine comic story, and the giggle featured a character that was in the first Doctor's era, so it felt a little bit more celebratory than the 50th, which was a circle jerk of New Who. They were all good specials. They had their flaws, and the bi-generation thing was fucking ridiculous from concept to execution, but for the most part, 14's era was good. I would rank him 11th, between 7 and 5. Little bit better, but not by much. Still great though. That's it for the time being. I know I keep promising another Doctor Who ranked video that I'm keeping vague, but hopefully in the coming months I can reveal it. However, until then, I will see you next week with, hopefully if my timing is right, another Doctor Who video.